So this is our second panel of the day. We started very strong today, with a presentation on shipping and contribution to society. And now we're moving on to to the first of the critical industry topics we are going to be tackling today. And this is the impact of technology on shipping, embracing the technological revolution. Shipping is not only capital intensive, but I think at this point it's very technology intensive. And the pandemic, I think, has been speeding up the use of technology throughout all areas of shipping, revolutionizing the industry at an accelerated pace. We have with us a great panel. I'd like to thank Paolo Moretti, the CEO of RINA Services, for sponsoring the panel and for moderating it. And we have five top principals to tackle this issue. I will let Paolo introduce them. I'd like to thank you all for being with us today. And Paolo, the floor is yours. Thank you to Ioannis, to Demetris, Alexia, Christos, and Constantino. So the floor is yours. And by the way, I'd like to say a big thank you to my team, if you don't mind, because as we were discussing, we are in New York right now, conducting this Greek time. So it is a bit early for us in New York, but we're delighted to share the day early with you.
Thank you, Nicholas. Thank you, and welcome, and good morning, good afternoon, or good night to all people that is connected. I'm really excited to moderate this panel today, considering the topics and the quality of the speakers. Of course, we know that Greek shipping represents an unicorn among all the other industrial sectors because it's the biggest maritime fleet, but it's also the oldest with the deepest tradition. And today we also have representatives really of these historical shipowners families. It is healthy and growing even if in tough times, and it has a rich order book. And in times when rules and technology change so fast, we really need strong innovation attitude and openness to new ideas and to the latest technologies. So today we'd like to hear directly from five leading personalities of the Greek shipping community, how they are using technology to optimize their operation. So first of all, let me introduce our panelist, Ms. Alexia Inglessis, Director of Alberta Shipmanagement, Ms. Demetris Chrysostomou, Director Marketing and Business Development, Columbia Shipmanagement, Mr. Christos Mangos is the CEO of Interunity Management Corporation, Mr. Ioannis Martinos, CEO of Signal Maritime, and Mr. Constantino Tomasos, CEO Super Eco Tankers Management. I am Paolo Moretti. I am the CEO of RINA Services, and today I'm sitting here in our headquarters in Genoa. So let me start. First of all, I would like to start with Christos. The 2020 mantra seems to be that the pandemic has accelerated the adoption of a wide set of innovative technologies, and somehow there is no going back. If you had to tell us about the technological solution that above all has helped you navigate in the stormy seas of the lockdown and of the still ongoing actual economic and sanitary emergency, which would you pick, Christos?
Pick one. That's a tricky. I think I would say in this pandemic, we've seen a lot of doors that have been opened that won't be closed again. And a lot of positive externalities have emerged out of these new doors, and actually with relatively little capital expenditure. And the ones that are most relevant, I guess, to our industry and our business, first and foremost, remote working. This is something that we embraced very quickly and has proven to be extremely effective. And remote working really breaks down into several categories. It's collaborative tools, business homes of phone, WebEx platforms, cloud-based solutions to be able to, to support remote networks. We've seen, affordable hardware, a lot of investment in very affordable hardware. Most people's laptops cost less than their phones. which is vaguely ridiculous, but you know, it's something that we realized. One positive externality that comes out of remote working is that we've embraced license-based products, which enhances our network security as well. All of a sudden, we all have current versions of antivirus and anti-malware software and Office 365. Cameras, camera-based inspections on board of vessels. It's something that we used to do only in the context of pre-purchase inspections. Now we use it in the ordinary course of business. And of course, everyone has upgraded their internet connections at home, in the office, and on board their vessels. Now, all of this, actually, in all of this, we haven't seen any new technologies. This is all existing technology, and this is all embracing essentially what existed, what we had at our fingertips previously. And I think, you know, all of this is here to stay, even when we are injectable with the vaccine. So, yeah.
Thank you. Thank you very much, Christos. I think this is something that can be shared by many of us in all the various, not only sectors of the shipping, but I would believe of many industries. Alexia, you have a ship under construction now, if I'm not wrong, in Japan. Is it going to be what we call a smart ship? Based on your experience with your existing fleet, what technological solution bring the best return of investments in terms of operational and commercial efficiency?
Thank you, Paolo, and thank you to Mr. Bornosi and the entire Capital Link team for organizing such a wonderful virtual event at such socially distant and challenging times. So one area in which technology has helped improve both commercial and technical efficiency is data collection and analysis. Both technical and commercial data can help improve efficiency. And I'm sure Ioannis will cover the latter, so I will try to explain what we do regarding technical data management, which has been enabled by the establishment of high connectivity on vessels at low cost, especially over the past 5 years. So first of all, we have installed sensors in all key machinery in the engine room, which collect data and transmit it to the office. This allows us to create a historical database through which we can deduce the optimal operational parameters. Secondly, we can monitor live from the office the vessel's main operational parameters, such as speed and consumption. Through engine builders, we have performance algorithms, which help us evaluate and adjust, if required, the operational parameters so that the engine operates within the maker's optimum limits. And this helps both reduce fuel consumption, emissions, and prevent engine breakdowns and stoppages. Through the analysis of the data we collect, we can also analyze historical trends that help identify specific maintenance needs before failures occur. And this is what we call condition-based maintenance. So an example of this is the use of VLSFO, which as a new fuel often creates problems to the main engine and generators. And with real-time data, we can this allows for prompt remedial actions. Another example is that by analyzing the main engine's consumption versus the vessel's speed, we can assess whether hull maintenance is required or whether an increase in consumption is due to weather factors. Technology has also allowed for better weather reporting, which in turn allows for better voyage planning. This is achieved through trim optimization and weather routing programs for given conditions, which also help lower consumption. Other areas in which technology has helped improve efficiency include document synchronization, drone inspections, but I won't expand on these for lack of time. And finally, regarding new building vessels, which you mentioned, Paolo, we choose top quality yards, in this particular case, Japanese yards with proven track records. We apply all of the technologies I mentioned above. We also apply energy saving devices such as water flow optimizers. And we also install dual fuel ready engines as well as dual fuel necessary design alterations, as the biggest challenge going forward will be the kind of fuel used for the propulsion of vessels.
Thank you, Alexia. That was
Thank
very interesting. I think that, I think we all agree that ships are going to be more and more sensorized, and is going to be a key factor, the interpretation and the use of the data that we are going to collect more and more to bring real efficiency to our operations. Speaking of new building, Constantino, the last ships you built was a few years ago. Let's suppose now you were to order a new building today. Which innovative technology do you think should be embedded in the construction to make operations more efficient and to increase the value of the asset itself? So in the end, to improve your bottom line.
Yes, Paolo. First of all, good morning, everybody, and thank you, Nicholas, for inviting me at this panel. Prior to reply and also to diversify my intervention from the other speakers, I would like first to describe which is our general approach to innovations. We tend to be pioneers only for rather small changes, whilst we prefer to, for bigger decisions, we prefer to fall into the immediate followers category. This is why, this is because in the past we have faced some situations whereas to be too much innovative, to be pioneers, presented some disadvantages. It comes to my mind when in 2009-10 we ordered our first water ballast systems for our new buildings. And this when the US had not yet diversified their position from IMO. With the result that when the ships were delivered, we have been anxious for a couple of years prior to have the system compliance, and this result was not known beforehand. Another classical example, which in a way gather all the incidents of the innovation, is for me the retrofitting of the scrubbers for the exhaust gases, for the fuel oil sulfur content. We have not adopted this solution. However, I'm pretty sure that the companies who did have not considered, some hidden costs, have made a wrong assumption on the payback period. They do not expect some situation like shipyard congestion or shipyard lack of expertise, and also do not expect various ports and countries not to accept open loop scrubbers. So our general approach to innovations is that if we deem that a certain technology is promising but is not ready yet, or is not tested yet, or the legislation around it is not clear, then we prefer first to monitor it, then eventually we predispose ourselves toward the technology, and only finally we embrace it entirely. Another clarification I believe should be made is for what we intend for operational efficiency. And this is because there are some innovations which have a direct impact on cost savings. Alexia has mentioned some of those, various energy saving devices, or the silane acrylate anti-fouling paint. These have a direct impact on costs, but there are also others that are equally important, and basically they are affecting the organization and they improve the operational risks. And this category can go from crew training tools to remote monitoring of engine and other parameters, or weather routing. So, Paolo, in order to reply to in a wider manner to your question, I would say that today there is a common trend proposed by various makers, which is the one of the autonomous ship. whilst I believe we are still far away from achieving that level, I strongly believe that efforts and progresses should be done in that direction, which means that definitely all the ships should be equipped with more sensors, particularly the new buildings should be equipped with sensors, actuators, cameras, improved connectivity. And this will allow a better remote assistance and monitoring as we intended today. However, will allow also the adoption of future artificial intelligence software tools, which will be certainly based on the collection of data prior to elaboration and integration of same. So in a way, we do it something for today, but we prepare ourselves for the future. And I believe this is a common trend. And I believe also you, RINA, you have taken certain steps in that direction with remote surveys and with Optimum and Cube software. So it's a common trend for me. Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you. Thank you, Constantino. I think it's really, as you said, it's a common trend for all. It's also interesting the point you made about installing scrubber, of course, in this pandemia. And also, I mean, in Italy, we always had a myth that when you have to take important decision in shipping, you follow the Greek. But then we understand that you also sometimes wait for somebody else to follow. So thank you again. Demetris, Columbia is one of the leading ship managers and well known also to be very innovation oriented. What new technologies has your company developed to bring new value and enhance the service offering to its client, the industry, and its crew on board? And would you like to tell us about your vision on how the shipping world is reshaping with the progressive adoption of digital technology?
Thank you very much, Paolo. Good morning to everybody. I mean, we are a ship manager, so not a ship owner. So for us, we have quite early on, and to be honest, also quite luckily preempted a little bit without knowing that there would be a pandemic, started a strategy which actually has helped us a lot during this pandemic time. So we decided that as a ship manager, we needed to differentiate ourselves from other ship managers. We needed to bring more transparency to our clients and to bring more value to our clients. So a big part of that has been technology as part of our forward vision. So with the 300 vessels or so under management, you can imagine we have all types of ships with all types of technology on board these vessels. These are not dictated by us, they're dictated by the clients themselves. So we have some ships with very basic setups. We have some very modern ships with all the bells and whistles like mentioned by the other panelists before. One of the main areas that we actually developed was our performance optimization control room. This is performing the functions which Alexia has mentioned before, and this is becoming quite common in the industry. We as a manager have had to take this a step further, and that is taking any ship into management, we have to be able to collect data without the necessity of high investment of sensors and so on. So our performance optimization control room has been set up in such a way that it's very flexible for any type of vessel coming into management with any type of investment on board. At the same time, this is a cloud-based system giving access to our clients remotely at no additional cost. And then we've taken this a bit further. So I will not mention all these features of this because these were already actually mentioned by Alexia before, so very similar. But we've taken this a step further. We're integrating this into our ship management models, which means our technical superintendents, our crew superintendents, our marine superintendents all have access to the system, which integrates into their ship management modules, meaning, for instance, a superintendent will get an alert based on planned maintenance. Crew superintendents will get alerts if vessels are trading to sanctioned countries, if there are delays to the vessel coming to port, to rearrange crew changes and so on. So it's all geared to optimizing and making what we do more efficient, all results at the end of the day in cost savings for the client. So this has been a major development for our company. Obviously, with pandemic, such a tool in your arsenal actually helps you with all these kind of remote jobs which have to be done. We've also gone a step further where we've established an e-learning platform. The e-learning platform, if I can describe, is something like Netflix. Every crew member and every staff have their own login. Everything is automated, which means they have their menu of trainings they must do. When they do their trainings, these are automatically automated and so on. It's given us during the pandemic the platform to actually share video messages to the crew from our CEO. So it's actually enhanced our communication as a platform with our crew on board. So these are a few developments. And then just because I know we're sensitive on time, just to mention a few other things. We've used existing technologies like Christos mentioned before. We're using different kinds of video platforms for senior officers meetings, for updating our clients on webinars, for mental health for our crew. And in addition, we're also developing an app for fitness for our crew. So I think the panel is pretty well titled that this is embracing technology, because nothing is new. It's just that shipping has decided to embrace existing technology. So as Columbia, this is what we're doing as a start, and we have a lot more for the future, because at the end of the day, I think technology, we've all realized through this year how important this is as part of what we do in our industry. Thank you.
Thank you to you, and thank you also to make in this description to put the correct emphasis to the training of our crew, because still people in other industry believe in a sort of dichotomy between technological transformation and people, but still, of course, in the shipping we know very well that our people, our crew, our superintendents are always at the heart of the whole industry. Ioannis, with you, we have the opportunity to get the point of view of the commercial manager. This is very interesting because the increasing complexity of value chain is accelerating adoption of digital technology in many markets. What about shipping? Does it lag behind, or is it catching up with other more digitalized markets? And in particular, would you like to tell us about your experience and your innovative platform?
Absolutely. Thank you, Paolo, and good morning to everyone. So in commercial shipping is actually one of the last places in our industry where technology is being employed, in part because it kind of has been traditionally more difficult to automate some of the things that commercial shipping professionals do. And actually, we started our company with this fundamental question of if someone can actually use technology to improve the commercial performance in the spot chartering market of Aframaxes by $1,000 a day if one uses technology well. And this is a very specific question. And it's not a question that you can answer by just buying a product off the shelf. It's actually a question that you need to answer by thinking deeply about the problem, thinking in terms of first principles, and then building a solution that will hopefully bring this result. And we worked on such a solution for almost 2 years before we started getting confident about the answer. And now after 5 years of having employed the technology in helping to bring order out of the chaos of all the information that you get as a commercial professional in shipping, we have managed to very conclusively answer that yes, you can improve your commercial performance by $1,000 a day. You can have an impact on the bottom line of your commercial operations. And actually, we thought that although this initially was an internal tool, that it would make sense to release this tool to the rest of the industry and help the industry advance in this direction as well. There actually have been other great efforts out there, many different platforms trying to do the same thing. And we are happy to be one of the leading ones. We have over 100 clients at this stage. Most, actually, more than 50% of all the crude tankers that trade in the spot market are represented by companies that use our software. So once we felt confident about this performance, we started building more around integrating the human expertise in shipping and technology, and have seen our performance steadily increase as a commercial operator. And based on that, we launched an Aframax pool a couple of years ago, and to our delight, now this pool has become the largest Aframax pool in the world, which is quite an achievement in such a short amount of time. So as far as technology is concerned in commercial shipping, we certainly don't believe that it will replace humans in any shape or form, but we are now 100% confident that it can assist people that know what they're doing to bring a better result. And also we are confident that it is much easier as a young shipping professional to learn some things through technology that would otherwise take you many years to learn. And actually we're very happy to see that, because that means that we're making our industry more accessible. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Thank you very much. I think that also you raised an important point about sharing experiences that is not at all, let's say, in this particular period, losing competitiveness, but we know very well that we have to be more and more all connected. I think this is one of the golden rule of the new shipping era. So now we have closed this first round of questions. Of course, I remember to our audience that if they want, they are free to send us our own questions, and we'll be pleased, of course, to reply. Let me come back to Alexia. Ioannis has just touched a very actual topic that is about the sustainability of shipping. Indeed, data collection and monitoring and increased transparency and visibility of the supply chain can certainly improve shipping environmental performance. In this, do you see other tools that support ships comply with increasingly stringent environmental regulations and minimize their carbon footprint?
Apart from new technologies, there certainly exists, there already exists a simple technology, which is well known, a simple tool, and that is the reduction of speed. According to one of Clarkson's latest reports, total fuel consumption and carbon output of the world's fleet today compared to 2008 has decreased by 18%. And this is despite carrying 35% more cargo and there being 60% more tonnage on the water. And this is mainly attributed to a reduction in speed, which is estimated to be about 15 to 20%. It's also due to the development of eco ships, but mainly due to the reduction of speed. Another tool that will help ship owners comply with environmental regulations and reduce emissions is the use of alternative fuels. So ship owners have to closely follow the research in alternative energy sources. Just to quickly mention a few options. One is LNG, which would reduce carbon emissions by about 20 to 25%, thus meeting the 2030 regulations for emissions, but not the 2050 targets. LNG is an obvious choice for LNG carriers, but a more challenging one for more conventional type vessels, such as bulk carriers or tankers, as there's a lack of LNG bunkering infrastructure. Then there's LPG, which is again an obvious choice for LPG carriers, a more plausible option for more conventional vessels, as there already exists a fleet of smaller sized LPG vessels, which could serve as bunkering vessels. However, the developments in LPG engines are lagging those of LNG due to the smaller size of the VLGC fleet. Third, there's the option of ammonia, which is still at an experimental stage, but could also work. However, we're uncertain about the volume that would be available. At the moment, wind power could also contribute a percentage of the vessel's energy requirements. Cold ironing could also be an option, which basically means connecting a vessel at port to shore power, which hopefully would be produced in an environmentally friendly way. And finally, I will dare to mention another form of energy, which is well known, yet presents extreme challenges in its application, and that is nuclear energy. Regulation, popular and political will is currently lacking due to certain well-known accidents. However, companies such as TerraPower have developed safe technologies by operating at lower pressures. With a horizon of 20 years, what might seem today as an impossibility might become the trend and might become the safest, greenest, and most efficient source of energy. Nuclear could be used as smaller units for the individual propulsion of vessels, or could be used onshore to produce electric energy, to produce electricity, which would then be stored in batteries, or used to produce hydrogen, which could then be used as a fuel on board vessels. And finally, another tool that could help ship owners reduce emissions is 3D printing, as this would minimize the need to transport spares and stores on board, and would also minimize the need for inventory stock.
Thank you. Thank you. That was a very stimulating perspective, in particular, the one involving the nuclear technology. That is not something that we commonly listen during our conferences and discussion with among regulators, ship owners, managers, manufacturers. Of course, we know very well that shipping somehow has to follow also the big energy trends of other industry. And it's correct that at a certain point, maybe 5 to 10 years ago, there was this idea that LNG or LPG could have been the panacea of all the anti-pollution campaigns. Now, of course, people is believing hydrogen is for sure something that could be produced by renewables and could be probably the future. But as usual, we also have to understand how other sectors, industrial sectors develop to understand if there is, in my opinion, the real business case also to come on the shipping. Speaking of this, Ioannis, I would like to come back on some of the points that you raised, in particular about the fact that maritime, to be honest, and we all know it is part of our tradition, and is also quite traditional, let's say, has not changed too much in its practices, in the practices that is following for the last 40 to 50 years. Do you think that somehow there can be some sort of cross-fertilization from experiences coming from other industry sectors? Are we going to be forced to reimagine the shipping business with these technology developments or digitalization bringing disruption of old roles in favor of new entrants, as it has happened with e-commerce, mobility, and traveling, and other issues on different industries?
Yeah. So I think there are certain trends that we have definitely seen in other industries that I'm personally, I have a strong opinion they will not materialize in shipping. One of these is the concept, for example, of an Uber system for shipping. The reason for this is, when you go to a city, you don't know all the taxi drivers in the city by name. You need to find a taxi or a driver. You can go on a platform and anonymously find the service you're looking for. In the case of shipping, the network is much smaller. The service is much more high touch, and the human connection cannot be replaced for a long time, in my opinion, starting from now, at least 10 years by technology. Predicting beyond 10 years is always a tricky thing, but I don't think that it's anytime soon that something like that can happen. On the other hand, one thing that could happen in shipping more broadly, and technology can help in this, is the concept of alliances. And we have seen them now in container shipping, and they're starting to work they're starting to work reasonably well. Another industry we have seen this from, and that has worked really well historically, has been the airline industry. Before alliances in the airline industry, and obviously before COVID, but let's exclude COVID from our thinking for a little bit. But before the alliances, airlines were always at the brink of bankruptcy. It was really difficult for them to do any serious, R&D efforts and so on, because they really couldn't afford it. And they couldn't really participate. The industry was not healthy in order to really push itself forward. Once the money was there, the companies were both more healthy, but also they could invest more in buying planes with newer technologies and so on. So similarly, if we want to get to zero emissions, somehow you need to have a healthy industry that can foot the bill and make this progress happen. And one of the ways that this can happen is by using technology to form alliances in ways that that we have not been able to form them in the past, and that's create a more healthy backdrop.
Thank you, Ioannis. So not a major business model disruption, but more technological and commercial. This is the point I take. Okay, we have another 5 minutes. I would like to go with other 3 questions, and the next one is for Christos. Ioannis has explained to us how a large amount of unstructured data processed with the right technology can be exploited to take fast decisions. Christos, do you see any other application of data analytics techniques in your business?
Yeah, absolutely. It's important to differentiate. There's 3 steps when you're addressing, data. Obviously, data gathering is an important process, but that's not the end goal. You then have to actually interpret the data, and you have to find a convenient way of presenting it. And technological innovations or their adoption is very much predicated on a trial and error process. So, and we can see this in the shipping industry. Unfortunately, those that front or those that kind of stick out their necks, a lot of the time, they realize that they've invested in technologically innovative products that don't get adopted. And being able to actually source data and measure metrics allows you to gain a better understanding of that trial and error process. So, we have sensors, we have cameras, we have all sorts of stuff. But then, you can't have a team of data scientists that are just going through and through data all of the time. You need convenient ways of interpreting it. I can give you one very basic, one very simple example. And I won't go to fuel efficiency because actually, there's a lot out there in terms of fuel efficiency. I'll go to navigational safety. All right. So navigational safety, you need to have, a competent bridge team on board of your vessel. So what do a lot of people do? They say, okay, we'll put cameras on board of the bridge. But what good is that? I mean, what are the cameras really doing? Are you really going to have someone sitting, behind their desk with, 14 images? No, what you need to do is essentially, you create software that uses heat maps, and I can actually show you an example. So you see, what I'm interested in is over time how people move around on the bridge in order to understand. So I'll actually show you from my cell phone. We'll get these snapshots of what's going on our bridge. So these colorful lines, essentially, they show you the concentration, the heat map of where people spend their time. Are they looking out of the bridge windows, or are they constantly behind the chart room? Okay, now how is that interesting? I've just shown you 8 hours worth of data on in one snapshot. And that's the challenge that we have to address. What is it that we do with this data, and how can we interpret it?
Yeah. So we have still 2 minutes left, time for very quick question. Constantino, do we still have a problem in terms of connectivity? Do you think that this is really still a bottleneck in terms of costs, of affordability?
Paolo, a friend of mine told me that I'm not the youngest in this panel. When I started to work in shipping, the only available technology for ship-to-shore connection was only the telex, the Inmarsat-A. But what I have witnessed the last 25, 30 years is that the higher needs of bandwidth never constituted a technical bottleneck in the sense that at any time, if you needed more, you could obtain more if you also were intending to pay more. As far as costs are concerned, however, I believe today we are still paying 1/3 of what we used to pay 25 years ago. So one threat for the cost might be represented today by the monopolization of the Inmarsat services. However, by having thousands of satellites on top of our head, I don't think that we will ever reach this point. Our present setup essentially consists of JECs of Global Express. We have some CIR packages, committed information rate, in order to protect ourselves in case there is congestion and where the maximum rate is just a utopia. For redundancy, we have double JECs or JECs with Fleet Broadband and Fleet Express. And sometimes we consider GSM solutions, but only on a few ships that are trading in certain specific areas. This setup for the time being is sufficient for us to cover our needs, and certainly is not the maximum that we could obtain if we were in need of it. So at least in the near future, I don't expect connectivity to represent real constraints for the adoption of new digital tools. And from a cost perspective, cost-benefit perspective, I believe that it is worth to to invest in connectivity in order to gain the benefit of these new tools.
Thank you, Constantino. I'm sorry, I wanted to make another question to Demetris about the crew and training, but I think he touched it already during his first question. I thank you again, the organizer and all the panelists, for the very important and inspirational conversation. And thanks again. Stay safe and see you at the next. Bye-bye.
Thank you very much.
Thank you very much.
Thank you to everybody for
Thank you.
Thank you very much.
Thank you, Nicholas.
Very well attended one. Thank you. You guys are very popular. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Bye-bye.
Thank you. Bye-bye.